Hello, Astro friends. How are you doing in the new year? This is Melanie again with the weekly Astro weather at this point for January 10th, tomorrow, until January 16th, Tuesday to Monday. And now we're in mid Capricorn, moving towards end of Capricorn. Yes, Capricorn only goes till January 19th, then we move into Aquarius. Quite amazing. We're already seeing more light returning, very Aquarian, and we love it. And then the cusp of Capricorn Aquarius is all about working with new light, working together, collaboration, and building in the light and from the light together with others. So we're not quite there yet, but yeah, countdown's on. Lots going on this week, and a quick flashback to yesterday. Today is the 9th. So yesterday, the 8th of January, was the day when Lilith entered Leo. And she will be there always 9 months in the sign, so until October the 4th. Lilith hasn't been in Leo in 9 years. So this is also a shift of energies towards more authentic, wild, in other words, unconditioned expression of your creativity, your joy, your heart, and your love, and your sovereignty. Everything Leo, roar as needed. Be truly you, which of course goes really well together with Jupiter now in Aries. More fire, yes. We could use that in the winter. And she gets going fully, I would say, when the Aquarius new moon on the 21st of January opposes Lilith. So that's quite an activation. So for now, she's still sort of just purring around and not quite showing up quite fully. But the new moon, of course, also about catalyzing new beginnings, brings her out even more. So a time to celebrate who we truly are in our hearts and in our creative self-expression. What else is going on this week? January 11th, coming up in 2 days, Mercury retro in Capricorn will square Chiron in Aries. So again, this contrast of the Capricorn world, where we hear all these voices of Mercury retrograde, old voices, but maybe not so much anymore. We have identified the voices of the old world, the voices of guilt and blame and all these things, and all kinds of heavy stuff, saying, yeah, you got to work hard and there's scarcity and only so much to go around and so on, right? So these voices, we have found hopefully more integrity now in our attitude, in our mind, and then the warrior of authenticity, Aries, Chiron, also gets more, is not weighed down by these old voices, but actually can be fighting for integrity and fight for authenticity and really show up, and maybe also with healing old wounds with this process here. Old and early wounds, which is always the Chiron thing. I found that actually with a lot of clients these days, and seeing it in myself, that a lot of early childhood wounds are presenting now to be healed. And yeah, Mars, the ruler of Aries in Gemini, has been retro since October 30th and coming to the end of its retro trip on the 12th of January. Yes, lots of you have been waiting for that. It's like, when is this Mars retro and Mercury retro, I call it MR and MR, when is this duo really shifting? When is this turnaround happening? Definitely between January 12th to 18th, that's a hot phase. January 12th for Mars, January 18th for Mercury, but it's the whole halo around, right? So we're already feeling that shift, and it has to do, because of Gemini and Mercury, a lot with communication, with speech, with free speech, with being there is also lots of speech going on that is actually divisive, and we don't need more of that, but we need freedom, right? So not so much about saying the right thing, but having the right to say what really is true for you. And Gemini, yes, Mars in Gemini goes direct again, and will go through Gemini until March 25th, when it enters Cancer. And I said, yeah, genuine warrior of free speech, and from divisive to authentic. Now, on January 13th is the first Friday the 13th. And that is often being considered in this conditioned, superstitious way as a bad luck day. But that's another distortion of what it originally was, what was originally celebrated on a Friday 13th. It's really a goddess. It's a double goddess day, because Venus is the planet of Friday. Venus is the planet of Vendredi, or Viernes in Spanish and French, and in the English language, Friday, and in German, Freitag, relates to Freya, also goddess, similar to Venus. Then you probably know that all the days of the week actually relate to gods and goddesses, and to planets. Like Monday is Moon Day, Sunday is Sunday, Saturday is Saturn Day, and so on. I wrote a little article for Friday the 13th to call that out for what happened with it, and bring us back to what it really is, in a more honoring the goddess, honoring the feminine way, which has been so hijacked and so distorted, as we know, by the so-called old empires. And what's with the 13 anyway? So 13 relates to the moons. Every calendar year has either 13 full moons or 13 new moons. This year, I believe, let me just verify that, this year we have 12 new moons and 13 full moons. And of course 4 eclipses, as most of the years. So yes, the number 13 has to do with the lunar cycles, with the female menstrual cycle, and hence is also of the goddess. And Friday the 13th is a beautiful day to honor the moon and Venus goddess, mother goddess and goddess of beauty, love, attraction, everything we enjoy. Then we have also on Friday the 13th a sextile, which is actually a Venus aspect, starting an aspect group tomorrow. Can't not mention that. From tomorrow, January 10th, until February 28th. Last chance to jump up. It's an intermediate group, and in terms of sextile, that aspect actually also relates to Venus. So more about all that in the group. Aspects have also associations with the planets. Now, this sextile between the Sun in Capricorn and Neptune in Pisces on Friday 13th I would describe as invitation to reconnect with ancestors, Capricorn elders, natural law, and what else is what other pieces that represent what's solid and timeless in the old world, and to really connect here and raise vibrations about it, natural law, all these things. It's a beautiful aspect. Then on January 14th, Saturday, Venus in Aquarius will square Uranus in, will square Uranus in Taurus. I misspelled that here in my description, so I'll correct that. So Uranus is now in Taurus since 2019, the sign of Venus, and Venus is just currently since January 2nd until the 26th in Aquarius, the sign of Uranus. In other words, they are in each other's signs. They are in what's called mutual reception, a double whammy. And when they even go into connection with each other, in this case a square, this reinforces their themes. So in other words, it's all about love and freedom, and all variations of that. So I said, for example, embody freedom, enjoy the liberating life, and so on, right? So Venus is about enjoying, and love is love and liberty, right? Then on Sunday, that's Saturday, on Monday, the 16th, Mercury retro, but almost going direct again on the 18th. Stationary, therefore, moving slowly and still backwards in Capricorn, goes into quincunx. That's a 5 sign apart aspect. It's also known as inconjunct, which I don't like that term. Doesn't make any sense. Inconjunct, is it conjunct, not conjunct? It's the quincunx, 5 signs apart, with Mars now stationary in Gemini, because Mars just moves direct again from January 12th on. So Mercury, another kind of double whammy, because Mercury is in the sign of Capricorn, and Mars is in the sign of Mercury, which is Gemini, and Mars would be really strong in Capricorn. So there's a strong Capricorn, Gemini, Mercury, Mars theme here, and they relate, they go into alignment, which is all about, okay, how can this go together with this? A quincunx is a bit of an oddity, and it needs sensitivity and adjustment to see, to make connections between these two sides. What is that for the Mercury, the Capricorn, the Gemini, the Mars side? So it is about information, messages, and more like a quality of lightness with that. And then on the other hand, significant stuff, and important, and maybe also heavy things that are more with Gemini is more ephemeral. It's more like, okay, this is just a real temporary thing. And then with Capricorn, it seems like, okay, we're dealing with this forever. So that can now apply to many things, right? Which can be this whole situation we've had with the Corona crisis. Was like, okay, is this over? Is this like now ceasing to exist, or will we deal with this forever? Or is this just the beginning of something? That's just one example, right? And then also it's about the mind. So can the mind be light and even a bit mischievous with Gemini, and also making fun language-wise and so on? Or is it like really heavy stuff that can be really depressing even, and so on, right? So we might fluctuate here, and here's an expression of that I can recommend. Also, it's like questioning Gemini, right? And leaving even leaving behind, being done with the controversial and polarizing and divisive mental war zones, which have happened so much, and I've been referring to that many times. So we've had a lot of that war kind of mongering and polarizing stuff going on so much. So can we actually shift vibrations here? And that would be also something Saturn, as it goes into Pisces soon on March 7th, will remind us of, right? So energy, vibration, atmospheres really are important, and what we feed into those. Then lastly, yeah, I should also say this aspect, this alignment between Mercury and Mars comes yet again, was already once before Mercury went retrograde. Forgot now when that was. Probably in November. So I don't know right now. So, and then also shortly after the second one on January 16th, it comes again on January 20th when both are direct, both Mercury and Mars. So in other words, this alignment is there for the whole turnaround, turnaround phase. Yeah, so we are really seeing effects of all this mental warfare, and can we shift this? Can we shift? Can we be mindful? And can we bring something different into the discussion? Then lastly, the moon now is waning. We've had the full moon. It was a micro moon, not a big moon, but definitely a moon with an effect, because the full moon in Cancer, Capricorn, the wolf moon on the 6th on Epiphany was also in T-square with Chiron. Wrote about that. You can always read things up, and was a lot about wounds and healing. And now we have the waning moon, often childhood wounds, I should say again, right, with Cancer, Capricorn. And yeah, and now the waning moon is currently today still in Leo, then overnight, tomorrow morning, goes into Virgo. Double checking, yes, tomorrow morning into Virgo, then into Libra on the 12th in the evening, then into Scorpio in the morning of Sunday the 15th, and yeah, and then on the 16th I'll do another video. So we are in a waning moon phase. In other words, it's a lot, and also in that phase of unraveling of Mercury, Mars retrograde. Eventually, also Uranus will go retrograde on the 22nd, the day after the Aquarius new moon. But we are. It's a really good time for releasing things that don't serve us anymore, or where there's too much energy and effort invested into yeah, also what's actually a waste of our time and energy, I should say that, with Capricorn. And from the Virgo perspective of the moon, it would be more like, okay, is this healthy? Does this serve me? Or do I really help others when I say this or behave like that? And the Libra moon would more be about, am I in peace? Am I in balance? Is this fair? And what's with our relationship? Then the Scorpio moon, waning moon towards dark moon, but not quite, is a lot about processing stuff that emotionally that would have been stirred up by these mm, phases of awareness. And let's, for example, right, you feel like, oh my gosh, this is like, things are just not fair in the world or between us, Libra. Then you have stuff to process, but don't get stuck in the dark. I keep saying that, especially now for Scorpio, because we have currently the South Node in Scorpio. And monthly, when the moon is in Scorpio early at this point in early Scorpio, connects with the South Node. So it also shows us where emotionally we can get pulled into a dark and self-defeating place. So we want to catch that and see what's actually wants to. That was funny, right? Synchronicity, because all of a sudden my screen went dark at this moment, really responding to my words, Mercury retro. So when we go into a dark place, is that possible to catch that and not to fall into it and be stuck in that place, but at the same time also important to process stuff. So it is really a balancing act, in fact. And I leave it with this, lots of intel, lots of info, and I wish you a good week and see you again next week for the following Astro Weather. Ciao.